You know, in any massive M&A deal, all the excitement, all the headlines, they're always about the final handshake. But let's be real. The most critical negotiation, it happens way at the beginning with the document that can literally make or break your entire payday, the engagement letter. So, we're going to get tactical. We are going to rip this thing apart and show you all the hidden traps that can cost an advisor millions.
For just a minute, forget the term sheet, forget the purchase agreement. Right here, this is where the real commercial fight starts. The engagement letter is not just some piece of administrative paper. No, it is the financial blueprint. It dictates your fee, your responsibilities, and your legal protection for the entire deal. And as you'll see, sometimes for a long time after.
So in this explainer, we're going to walk through the 5 biggest advisor gotchas you absolutely have to master. We're talking about the tail period, sneaky fee calculation traps, the whole exclusivity debate, the break fee, and the incredibly important standard of care.
Okay, first up, the tail period. Let me paint you a picture. You spend a solid year grinding on a deal. You introduce the absolute perfect buyer. But your engagement ends before the deal actually closes. Then, a month later, your old client closes with that exact buyer. The big question is, do you get paid? Well, the answer is buried in how well you negotiated this one clause.
The tail period, in a nutshell, protects the value of all that work you did. It makes sure a client can't just run out the clock on your contract to weasel out of paying your success fee. It's a recognition that your introduction, all that groundwork you laid, has real value, even if the deal itself crosses the finish line after you're officially off the clock.
So you can see it right here. Your active work happens during the engaged period, obviously, but your economic interest, your value, is protected for that next 12 to 24 months. Honestly, just think of it as your insurance policy. It's insurance against a client trying to strategically delay a deal just to cut you out of the fee.
But here is the massive trap. If you don't provide a designated parties list to the client right when you terminate, you are setting yourself up for a huge fight later on. A fight over who really introduced that buyer. Was it you? Did the client already know them? A specific written list of names gets rid of all that ambiguity. It is your key to actually enforcing the tail.
All right, let's move on to the core of your compensation. It sounds so simple, right? A percentage of the deal. But the real money? Well, it's made or lost in how you define total transaction value, or TTV. This definition right here is where advisors can either win big or lose big. Let me be clear. TTV is never, ever just the cash price on the press release. It's a totally negotiated figure that should include every single form of value that's changing hands. Your job, as the advisor, is to make this definition as broad as humanly possible to reflect the true economic value of the deal you just helped create. So this is the question you have got to be asking yourself and your client from day one. Are we just talking about the cash that hits the bank, or are we going to look at the whole spectrum of value that's being created here? Come on, let's look at some of the most common traps. Check out these hidden value drivers. Your TTV absolutely has to include the debt that a buyer takes on. It should definitely include future earnouts, those payments that depend on future performance. But you have to define exactly how they're going to be valued. And oh yeah, it absolutely must include the founder's rollover equity, the stake they get to keep in the new company. Every single one of these items needs to be spelled out in writing. Now, to protect yourself on those really complex deals, or maybe the ones that just end up a bit smaller than everyone hoped, you have to negotiate a minimum success fee. This fee floor guarantees that all your time, your effort, your strategic advice, it gets compensated, no matter what the final deal structure looks like. It's your safety net. Okay, our third point. This is all about controlling the process. A client might get the bright idea that hiring 2 banks will create some, healthy competition. But in reality, it almost always creates total chaos. This is why you've got to secure an exclusive mandate if you want to run a tight, value-maximizing process. I mean, the difference is just night and day. With an exclusive mandate, you have one focused process. Your incentives are perfectly aligned with the client. Get the best possible deal. But on a dual mandate, now you've got 2 banks competing with each other. They're often just racing to be the first one to bring in any deal, which can totally compromise the quality, the strategy, and yeah, the final price. Dual mandates, I'm telling you, they create a race to the bottom. Who's controlling the message to the buyers? Who's running the timeline? It just creates confusion in the market, and it can make your seller look disorganized, maybe even desperate. And that's the last thing you want when you're trying to get top dollar. So what happens when a deal you've been slaving away on for months just falls apart at the very last second? Well, if your client gets paid for that failure with something called a break fee, shouldn't you? This is a really street-smart move that every advisor needs to have in their back pocket.
First, let's just define this real quick. A break fee or termination fee is just compensation that gets paid if one side backs out of the deal. So for example, a buyer might just walk away, or your client, the seller, might get a much better offer and decide to terminate the deal. In that case, your client often gets a pretty hefty check.
And here's the move. Your engagement letter has to say that you get a percentage of any break fee your client receives. Period. You did the work that got the deal to that point. Your effort created the situation where a break fee was even on the table. It is only fair that you get compensated for that value you created. All right, let's get to our final and maybe the most important defensive clause, indemnification. This is 100% about managing your legal liability. M&A deals are high stakes, right? And when things go south, people start looking for someone to blame. This clause, this is your shield.
Indemnification basically means the client agrees to cover your legal fees and any damages if you get sued over the deal, as long as you haven't done something seriously wrong. But see, everything, and I mean everything, comes down to how you define seriously wrong.
This right here is a critical distinction. Simple negligence is a really low bar. It could be an honest mistake, a simple oversight. Gross negligence, on the other hand, that's a much higher standard. That implies like a reckless disregard for your duties or actual willful misconduct. As an advisor, you always fight for the gross negligence standard.
Let me be perfectly clear about this. This is a non-negotiable, make or break point. A simple negligence standard opens you and your entire firm up to huge risk from ridiculous lawsuits over minor mistakes. Insisting on gross negligence is what protects you from liability for anything other than truly terrible behavior.
So let's wrap this up with a quick recap of the 5 big takeaways. 1. Lock down your tail period with a designated parties list. 2. Define every single piece of TTV and get yourself a fee floor. 3. Always push for an exclusive mandate. 4. Make sure you get a piece of any break fee. And 5. Protect your back with a gross negligence standard.
At the end of the day, mastering these clauses is what really separates the amateurs from the pros. The engagement letter is where you prove your commercial chops and you secure the terms that lets you do your job well and, just as importantly, get paid for it. It's not just the start of the deal, it's the foundation for your entire success.